evening. The regular meeting of January 8th, 2018 of the Dubuque Community School Board of Education is called to order. Our mission is to develop world-class learners and citizens of character in a safe and inclusive learning community. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton.
Here.
Ms. Bradley.
Here.
Mr. Donahue.
Here.
Mr. Prohaska.
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Sansey.
Here.
Ms. Whitman.
Here. All right, we are joined today with Thomas Jefferson Middle School students, and the principal, Kelly Maloney, is here to start the pledge.
With me tonight are our true Hillhawks, and I am going to have them tell you what true means. T.
Stands for trustworthy.
R.
Stands for respectful and responsibility.
U.
Stands for understanding.
E.
Stands for excellent.
This is our student leadership group at Jefferson. We started it last year, and they help sixth graders transition into our school. They also work with sixth graders throughout the year and do other things for our school. They just did the Candygrams, and they have some projects coming up here this trimester yet. And Mrs. Duran is the 8th grade teacher. She's back there filming. And she has been working with the students about every other day. Is that when you guys meet? On leadership skills. And now if you could just take a second and start, Morgan, and introduce yourself.
My name is Morgan.
I'm Emma Hastings.
Anna Klein. Claire Leahy. Caitlin Hamran. Kirsten Davis.
Dakota Rupp.
Okay. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank you because this is the way we start our day every day at Jefferson with the pledge. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Nice job.
Don't look down on you.
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
I move the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on December 11th and the special meeting on December 20th, 2017 as submitted.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on December 11th and the special meeting on December 20th, 2017 as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, that takes us to some board salutes. Let's start, Ms. Whitman.
I got one. This goes to Brent Cook, the assistant principal for activities and athletics at Dubuque Senior High School. Brent was named one of 11 national recipients for the 2017 Distinguished Service Awards given by the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association during the 48th Annual National Athletic Directors Conference. A lot of big words. The Distinguished Service Award is presented annually to individuals from within the organization's membership in recognition of their length of service, special accomplishments, and contributions to the interscholastic athletics at the local, state, and national levels. Congratulations, Brent, to your outstanding achievement.
Thank you.
I have one. So I want to give a board salute to our superintendent and a variety of principals that I've had the opportunity to interact with throughout my experience so far, including Jefferson, Prescott, just to name a few. Just being inside the school system and interacting with the principals and the teachers, the culture that they're creating inside the school system is amazing. And you really don't know what's going on until you actually get inside these buildings. So salute to the superintendent for taking me on these tours and all those amazing principals. Thank you so much for all the work that you do.
I'd like to offer a board salute to Tricia Pitts, who is the web and print coordinator for the district. her role in helping us take a large set of data and translate it into a visual representation as we process the charter school renewal has been very, very helpful. I know she's worked with Principal Sullivan and Cindy Steffens and with staff from Prescott and others who have brought forward lots of data for us to understand what we're working with. So we thank Tricia, we thank the others who worked with her, and just to say that Tricia's work represents a level of sophistication that the district, I think, has arrived at in terms of analyzing, interpreting, reporting out on data, and we're grateful for that. We thank them.
Thank you.
I've got a board salute as well. Congratulations to George Washington Middle School students Jada Gooch, Lily Bailey, Hannah Mosina, and Alec Parkin. This group was recently named one of 10 national finalists in the Kind Schools Challenge, which invites middle and high school students nationwide to submit project ideas for making their school and community kinder and more inclusive. The challenge is hosted by Making Caring Common, a project of the Harvard Graduate School of Education and the Kind Foundation, a philanthropic entity started by the Kind Healthy Snacks. The team from Washington Middle School was selected as one of 10 finalists out of more than 190 applications from 28 states and Washington, D.C. Students on the Washington team aim to empower their peers to perform and spot small acts of kindness. As part of their project, they will hand out kindness cards to students who do a kind act along with an explanation on how and when to pass their cards on. The goal is to encourage students to think before speaking and acting in ways that are unkind. Congratulations to these students, as well as the Washington technology coach, Amy Mosina, who has worked closely with the group on the project.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Barton?
I've got a couple of them here. A board salute goes to the many Dubuque Community School District students who were named 2017-2018 Martin Luther King Tribute Contest honorees. They are Carver kindergartners Mason Jedlicka and Aubrey Scardino, Fulton first grader Genesis Bennett, Fulton second grader Aubrey Gallagher, Bryant third graders Jamie Miller and Satanshu Rock, Fulton fourth grader Brenia Allen Jones and Maya Honecker, 6th and 7th graders Cole Ben from Jefferson, Olivia Edwards from Roosevelt, Julia Gale from Roosevelt, Shay Sadler from Jefferson, Soya Warenberg from Jefferson, and Zakira Wilson from Roosevelt. 8th graders Morgan Brimeyer from Jefferson, Trey-Rena Clark from Jefferson, Kristen Davis from Jefferson, Talia Lair from Jefferson, and 11th grader Zakia Johnson from Senior. Congratulations to each of these students on their work in the contest and to the NAACP for hosting this tribute each year. And this may be a school board first. This was a Facebook post, so it has not been vetted for accuracy, but it was written so perfectly on Dave Keck's Facebook page. His wife, Julie Keck, posted this. I read it, and I'm like, it's a board salute, hand-delivered to us. So, way to go, Hempstead High School, at the state debate competition this weekend. Brian Keck and his partner Blake Homan placed third in the state out of 38 teams. Emma Gillis and Natalie Harbin advanced and got through to the octo round. And a big thanks to Don Stanner for all his dedication and hard work with the entire team. Kudos to the whole debate team. Such an impressive group of young adults.
Wonderful, thank you.
Octaround.
Any other salutes?
Octaround.
Like the octagon ring.
Yeah.
Moving on. Need a motion. Visitors and open.
I move that the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into open forum.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into open forum. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Anybody wishing to address the board at this time can come forward. All right.
I move that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
I move the Board of Education approve those items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve those items listed in the consent agenda. Is there anybody wishing to have any items removed? Okay, there being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
I move the Board of Education approve the quarterly budget report.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the quarterly budget report. Mr. Kelleher.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Reingam. There's only a couple things I'd like to bring to your attention tonight with regards to the quarterly budget report. Both have to do with the general fund. As I look at the year-to-date expenditures in the general fund and also look at the future encumbrances, as of right now, they are projected to be slightly lower than what we anticipated for the year, so that's good news. The spring will also bring some increased activity and expenditures that's higher than the fall because there's 5 months of school compared to 4 months in the fall. So, you know, I think it's a good status where we're at right now. With regards to revenue for the general fund as well, when I look at what we've collected year to date and what we're going to collect for the next 6 months, the total amount is very close to our projections. So I think it's good news for the general fund 6 months throughout this year. Anyone have any questions on anything? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, I'd just like to point out that our Facility Support Services Committee did not meet this last month.
Okay, we have a motion on the table right now. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion of the quarterly report passes.
I'll
Okay.
repeat my statement.
Here we go. Sorry.
You still haven't met?
We still haven't met, and I don't think we'll make it.
Okay,
An update, we still haven't met.
sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, now we can go on to ed programs.
Sure. At our January 3rd meeting, we had 2 essential items of business. The first we've already attended to in the policies that we've passed in the consent agenda. The second was a continued discussion of the Prescott Charter School renewal that's before us tonight as an action item. So I would just go ahead, Madam Chairperson, and move that the Board of Education approve the Prescott Charter School renewal.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the Prescott Charter School renewal. Is there any discussion? And I think we do have some discussion on that, so.
There's one thing I'd like to just kind of point out here is no matter how this vote turns out, and I think I speak for the rest of the board, that we are fully support the dedication of the principal and the teachers at Prescott. The administrative staffs have done a great job of doing a deep dive into the data for not only Prescott, but the other Title I schools, and they're to be applauded for their work. And special thanks to the parents and students and teachers who spoke in favor of the charter a month ago. I personally have some feelings on the charter.
Can we let Stan, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second and let Stan go on
Give us an
before you give
overview?
those.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Just to kind of give an overview of where we are, and we'll come back right back to
a longer process
you.
than we've had in the past. And so we went through this last Wednesday in a smaller group, and so wanted to share with the larger group as well as the fact that we're televised tonight, kind of where we stand. So multiple meetings have been held with both the Prescott Advisory Committee as well as the Ed Program Subcommittee of the board, and then of course we had a public hearing at this board session about a month ago. So I want to first thank and congratulate the board on taking their job seriously to do the due diligence that is incumbent upon them by being elected to the school board to look at these types of decisions in great depth. It's never meant that the board be a rubber stamp of anything. Really, you're elected to help make those decisions, and I think the board has done a fantastic job of that with this process. I know that some take that as a negative sign, that maybe the board should just simply move forward with the decisions or what we've done in the past, but that's not your job, and you didn't do that. So I appreciate the fact that you put the time and effort into looking at data and asking hard questions, because that's your job to ask and our job to come up with those answers. So I do
I do want to thank you for that. I want to thank the parents and particularly the students, the young people who came and spoke here. It's always my favorite part. I'm always impressed with the young people who are willing to come and speak, whether it's middle schoolers like Jefferson or elementary students at Prescott. I do bear in mind, though, that whenever we're talking about any school, we most certainly can fill a room with young people who love their school. I did want to clarify one other comment that had been made on multiple occasions, that in some of our other schools, perhaps we just teach from the manual or turn the page. And I want to clarify for the media and the press here, that does not happen, that we have hardworking teachers, great teachers at Prescott. I've been in all of our buildings who work hard every day to individualize education and to come up with creative lesson plans. So I did feel a need to address that comment specifically. I was torn at the beginning of this process, and I think it's my job to, along with the board, to struggle with these issues moving forward. But as I mentioned at our meeting last Wednesday, I do support or recommend support of renewal of the Prescott Charter. Turning point for me was when Principal Sullivan had an opportunity to speak. I have great respect for Vicki and her work as an educator, and she's been there now a year and a half, and brings forward a recommendation from her and from her team that they want to continue down this path. I would, though, put forward that we need to look probably a little bit more specifically about setting goals, whether it be a SMART goal format or something else for the board to look at on, so that 4 years from now we have a really clear-cut idea of what it is that's being evaluated. What is the role of student achievement? Certainly it has a place, a significant place, but it's not the only issue. There are things that were brought forward about creating a love of education and a connection to educational facilities. So anyway, I felt I should start that off. I did it publicly last Wednesday, but it was a small group, so I wanted to do that again so that people weren't wondering what was the recommendation of the superintendent. So. Sorry, Jim, didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead, Jim.
That's okay.
You can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, kind of a little bit as I was saying, there are pros and cons to the charter school. I just will go over the pros. First of all, I think that I like the expeditionary learning and project-based learning, as well as the emphasis upon the arts. I think it gives kind of a magnet school type feeling to Prescott. I like the downtown community involvement as well. And I appreciate the recommendation of our superintendent. To me, some of the negative aspects of the continuing the charter are, if we look back at our past history, the academic achievement has not significantly changed. It's very similar to our other Title I downtown schools. There's no major difference that I saw in student attendance and parental involvement compared to the other schools. The attendance caps may, and I just say qualify, may affect the enrollments in the downtown schools. All the averages seem to not indicate that, but averages don't mean everything. And I think somewhat I've detected a little bit of an isolation of Prescott, somewhat from the district in terms of kind of being exempt from some curricular areas, as well as I've attendance at some of the professional development in our district. And it has not been a significant, what I call a destination school, where other people from outside the Prescott district want to attend. It is the only elementary school in the state of Iowa that has charter status, and there are only 3 charter schools. There is no financial support from the state. A 4-year commitment is a long commitment, I think. If the board votes to approve the charter, even if we do a yearly, I believe you're talking about some objectives, I believe, Stan.
Setting some kind of a mutually agreed upon goal to measure progress.
But we still have a 4-year commitment on that. And I think we're looking at maybe long range down, looking at target schools. I, as a veteran teacher, I'm a little bit on the conservative side. I believe that elementary school should be, highly oriented towards fundamentals, preparing students for the next level. And as a board member, I think I need to do what I, in my own mind, feel what's best for the district. And as a general rule, I do support the recommendation of our superintendent, and I have full confidence in him. However, in this instance, I do not concur, and I will vote not to apply for the charter at Prescott.
Yeah, this has been a real process for me. When we get into issues like this, if there are a large number of people who want to hear kind of where we're thinking, I tend to write things out so I don't go on forever. So I'm just going to read my statement here. I'm sympathetic to the fact that the Prescott community wants to continue their charter status. The staff believe in their approach, and the parents and students seem to as well. So I ask myself, why not? Is there any downside in continuing this? Does it cost more? Not really. The student-teacher ratio is about normal for our Title I schools, and while there are a few extra costs here and there, that's no different than the other buildings as well. It's not significant. Do Prescott's class caps create systemic problems for neighboring schools by forcing larger classes in those other schools? Not really. There are only a couple classes in neighboring schools that are larger than the Prescott class size caps. Do the class caps create a nuisance for individual kids who have to venture to a different school even if they live across the street from Prescott? Well, yeah. But I hear our superintendent proposing circumstances where that's no longer going to be a problem. So it doesn't really cost anymore, and I'm hearing that we'll be able to make attending Prescott possible for the kids who truly live in Prescott's boundaries, which is the game changer for me. As when we created the charter, it was clear to all of us that Prescott remained a neighborhood school, especially in lieu of the $15 million we had just spent to build the new school as a neighborhood school. I've spoken with principals, I've spoken with teachers, I've heard from parents, I've heard from community members, I've spoken at length with other board members and our superintendent, I've read the comments in the media, I've spent a massive amount of time processing this decision. And I've appreciated everyone in this room doing the same, regardless of how you vote, because everybody in the room really does care a lot. This is what makes our Dubuque schools great. If it's not a burden in terms of cost, and if it's not a hardship to students in Prescott's boundaries or neighboring schools, and if academic performance is competitive with other Title I schools, and if the principal, staff, parents, and students like being a charter school, and if our school district leadership says they're in favor of a 4-year extension that includes loftier goals than ever, then based on that information, I see no downside, and therefore will vote in favor of the charter renewal.
I'd like to share some of my comments. As Tom reflected, I too, and I'm sure all of us, have spent a lot of time reading and listening to people, talking with others. I'll just give you my Cliff Notes. Basically, I too typed them up. Give you my definition of a charter school when I first hear the word charter. It gives educators the flexibility to teach required curriculum in creative ways. Prescott School over the last 12 years has wrapped up all the required core curriculum into expeditionary learning, learn by doing. Today our schools in Dubuque are participating in EL through digital age literacy, collaborative learner, critical learner, and creative learner. Our teachers attend weekly professional development, and we have teachers in leadership roles. Students are sharing their work to an authentic audience outside the school setting. I believe our teachers, administrators, counselors, paraprofessionals, all involved in the daily routine of our students, are working with the whole child approach. I also believe each school strives to have parent and community involvement as much as possible. So I do not feel the charter status is making these things happen today. Maybe it did 12 years ago when we started. They got the ball rolling. It's the overall shift and focus education has gone to that will make a difference going forward. So I do not support continuing the charter.
Yeah, I'll be redundant a little bit from the superintendent's comments. I do want to thank the parents and the teachers and the students from Prescott who took time to provide the board with feedback regarding their experience. I know I went into this with a firm belief that we have some of the most committed, passionate educators throughout our district making an impact with the young people entrusted to them by parents, and certainly this public hearing did not disappoint. I want to thank the Prescott Advisory Board for their guidance and direction over the past 12 years. They certainly have worn their commitment to the students and teachers at Prescott on their sleeves, and we've been well served by that group. I'd also like to say I support the process that the board has followed, certainly thanks to Mike and Tricia, who have been able to provide us with those various data points in an understandable, comparable format. I know this required a lot of additional meetings, as Tom indicated, a lot of consideration, review of a lot of data, and more importantly, a lot of meetings face-to-face with many members of the community to receive feedback. As has been pointed out by many throughout the process, data is not everything, but it is something. And the board's commitment to student achievement has to be first and foremost. When one considers the data over the period the designation has existed, it's hard to come to the conclusion that the model protected by the charter is producing the desired growth in student achievement, either standalone against state metrics or comparatively against other Title I schools. That is not in any way a criticism of past or present teachers or administrators, but rather a reality that it's time to move forward with something different. While there's no question that great things happen at Prescott every day, I believe they happen across our district without the presence of a charter designation. I recall when Tom and Tammy and I, we worked on the first version, if you may, of the strategic plan. We talked at great length about giving teachers and administrators alike the opportunity to use alternative approaches to meeting the learning needs of our children. Individualized approaches for students with different needs or challenges, but the same outcome, student achievement. We talked about giving teachers not only the opportunity to fail, but in a way encouraging them to fail. And for doing the same thing year after year with no measurable change in outcomes is not how we unfold the potential of every student. In recent years, the superintendent has actually championed a theme of fail fast, fail forward. And in my opinion, after 12 years, it's time to fail forward and do something different. Give the building leadership the flexibility to keep the things that are working, but the ability to discard what's not. I have the utmost confidence in Vicki Sullivan and her ability to take our Prescott family to a higher level of achievement. But she must be free to change without the constraints inherent in the charter designation. And I know her to be incredibly committed to her team and the students of Prescott, and do not see this decision as in any way eroding that commitment in any way. And in reality, it reaffirms in my mind that she is the right person in the right place at the right time. There are resources available to this student population that are not being utilized because of the uniquenesses of the charter. And it's our job as the board to ensure to the best of our ability that our educators and leaders have every tool available to them. Now, this board understands there's much work to be done in the area of student achievement, equity, diversity, and teacher retention when it comes to all of our schools. But certainly a focus is needed around our downtown schools. And notwithstanding a compelling reason to renew this designation, I don't want a charter designation to limit the district going forward in terms of how we address those goals. I mentioned this before. The goals that were identified 12 years ago for the charter can all be found in our current strategic plan. The plan that speaks to what is important and what drives our decision making. And to those who are concerned that something gets taken away from teachers or students at Prescott, I suggest the only things that will be taken away are the things that aren't working. I'm also confident that this board and the administration will continue to make decisions that put students first. So if you're a parent of a third grader attending Prescott, I don't believe you need to have any concerns that your child will not finish at Prescott, because this district understands the value of continuity in the education of our young people. But I also believe that if you're a parent of an elementary student living in the Prescott school boundary and want your child to attend Prescott, the district will do everything in our power to make that happen. If it means adding an additional section to accommodate more students, then I know the district and the board will do everything we can to make that happen. And for all those reasons, I will not support the renewal.
For me, it's been an amazing process just learning about Prescott. As I mentioned earlier, going inside Prescott, listening to teachers and administrators, it's been a great experience. The amount of data that has been given to all of us, it's been good information. And as I talked to the board, reviewing over and over and over the intent, the original intent of Prescott Elementary was to close the achievement gap. There was a lot of conversation that what was working years ago was not working for a particular group of students, and that we needed to do something new, which is the original reason why we had the Prescott Charter School. Closing the achievement gap is not working at Prescott right now. However, from my opinion, my perspective, there's a bigger issue in the community, and as Mike mentioned earlier, in our downtown schools in particular, that as a community, we need to come together and address. And it's not just a Prescott issue or any other Title I school issue. It is a community issue, which is originally what I ran for. It's going to take a community to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing right now. I appreciate Stan's confidence in the principal. I believe that, with 1 year or a year and a half being in her position, that we need to provide her with all the tools and resources that she needs so that her team can be successful. And there was conversation that, hey, it's us versus them, right? Kind of language that was used. And it was scary. It was scary. And I want to remind Prescott that you are part of the district. You are the district. We care about you. Each and every single student, parent, teacher, student, we care about all of you. And we don't want this us versus them. So regardless of what happens at the end, you are the district. And as a board, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you are successful. We want to work with you and not against you. So regardless of what happens, please be encouraged and know that we're going to work together to address the issues that are in our community.
I would perhaps present a different perspective than some who have spoken, not all. In my pre-retirement role as Director of Elementary Education, I was privileged to be able to be involved and walk alongside Prescott from the inception of the idea to the early implementation to the advanced implementation through so much quality professional learning. There are 8 intended outcomes for Prescott Elementary Charter School. Of those 8 intended outcomes, one of them is student achievement. Of course, we all value student achievement so highly. It is one of the reasons we're here. I would suggest it's not the only reason that we're here. And I think when we look at the other intended outcomes, we see citizenship, we see climate, we see culture, we see student involvement, we see community coming into the school and the community becoming the classroom. We see active engagement, we see standards-based instruction that's focused around the state standards for teaching and learning. All of those and so many more things are so much part and parcel of every moment of every day at Prescott Elementary School. In the early days, when the district said to our schools, American education is in a time of change. It's in a time where it's reinventing itself. It's figuring out what does today's child, today's student need in order to be a 21st century worker and citizen. Prescott not only brought an intention to bring student achievement, of course, to the forefront, but it sought to bring active engagement, project-based learning, integrated curricula, multiple-year connection between students and children to strengthen and deepen the relationships. So much focus on motivation for learning, connection to the school, the kinds of things that we want. Of course we want that for every child in every school. But Prescott stepped forward at a time when those were only words coming out of our mouths. And as Mr. Barton has said, it costs us nothing to support the continued excellence that we have experienced for 12 years at Prescott Elementary School. I don't believe that they seek to exclude themselves from anything. The charter itself has given them the opportunity to sometimes be a part of district-wide initiatives and sometimes to have their own school-wide initiative. We promote the notion that schools don't have to be all alike, that we love the idea of children seeing individualization as a strength, and that we see schools as an opportunity for schools to strengthen themselves and to look at ways in which they uniquely can bring themselves forward in a way that meets the needs of their students, not the school students down the street or across town, but their own students as they know them. Prescott has stepped up in every case to do just that. They've been willing to sometimes experience disrespect, if you will, occasionally from others who maybe didn't understand the model, who thought they were trying to step out of line, if you will. But through it all, they have respected the innovation and creativity that other schools have had and have brought to their own work. They have supported colleagues. They have been incubators for innovation and change and school improvement in ways that have encouraged all schools. Why can't we look at 19 schools in our district and say, look what that school is doing, look what that school is doing, and that school is doing, what each school has accomplished. In all of that, I believe that Prescott has served to be a bit of a beacon in the sky to say to others, you know what, we could try that too. Not that we don't have our own ideas and our own strengths. Schools bring different things to the table. But through all of that, we see a growing spirit, if you will, of innovation, of creativity, of uniqueness, such that the board is now saying, let's take a look at the idea of magnet schools. Magnet schools is just an idea at the early exploration stage, but that means that we would support, were that to be a decision made to go forward with that, the individualization of a school. So I come to this having had a different experience than others perhaps. What I know is that in walking alongside Prescott for the past 12 years in my role with the district, I have found that they have shown excellent school improvement. They have been uniquely focused on children and their learning and how they can better and better meet the needs of the students they have. And they have willingly shared with others. They have been a part of the school improvement efforts of the district. They have willingly opened their doors to others who wish to come and be a part of the things that they were learning about and exploring and working with. So they have been mighty contributors to not only their own work, but to the work of the whole district. So personally, to everyone at Prescott today and in the past 12 years, I say thank you, regardless of how this ultimately is decided upon by the board tonight. I know that Prescott has stepped up, carried the mantle of creativity and innovation with one thing in mind, and that is the good and the benefit and the future of the children entrusted to the staff of Prescott Elementary School. For that, I say bravo and thank you, and you certainly have my vote of support for continuing the charter, or will have. And I hope that as you go forward, regardless of the vote tonight, that you will not feel that you have in any way that your work has been something diminished by an inordinate look, not inordinate in the charter process, but other schools don't have this same kind of scrutiny and this same kind of calling forward of a process to investigate them. So I can only say thank you, bravo. Please continue regardless of the decision tonight. If supported, you know that you then have that mantle of the charter. Absent that, you have the work in front of you that has been the same work. Your work must go on, and you must not lose heart in your press forward to do most right by the kids of Prescott.
Well, I'm not going to repeat what everybody said, because everybody had very good points that were brought forward here. I too have been a part of the Prescott Advisory Committee, and I have seen some of the good work that's been going on there. And I do applaud Prescott for their initiative on a lot of the things that they have done. But I also look at where we have come. And just because you go in one direction doesn't mean a change means that direction can't keep going. I look at it as the work that Mike pointed out that we have done as a board with the strategic plan. We encourage all of our schools to do what is best for their students and to come up with the best building plan for their students as to what they think that they need to do. I have no doubt in my mind that what is successful at Prescott can continue regardless of what goes forward tonight. If it works in the past, it'll work in the future. And if there are changes that need to be made, there will be changes that need to be made. But we do have to look at it as a board, that we are here for all of our schools. We are not here for just one school. And the freedom that we are allowing, and with the support of the superintendent and the administration that is moving forward, I know that all of our schools have the same freedom that Prescott has. And I just do not see the need of calling it a charter any longer would stop any of the momentum that's been happening. So, and to not repeat what everyone said, we are one district. We are there for Prescott. We are there for all of our schools. And with that, I will not be supporting the charter. So, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barton.
Aye.
Ms. Bradley.
Aye.
Mr. Donahue.
No.
Mr. Prohaska.
No.
Ms. Ryan.
No.
Mr. Sansey.
Yes.
Ms. Whitman.
No. The motion does not carry. Thank you for the process. New business.
I move that the Board of Education approve the proclamation honoring Martin Luther King Jr. and authorize the President and Secretary to sign on behalf of the Board.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the proclamation honoring Martin Luther King Jr. and authorize the President and Secretary to sign on behalf of the Board. For discussion, I will read the proclamation. Whereas on Sunday, January 14, 2018, our community will celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., beginning with a gathering at Jackson Park at 12:45 p.m. and march to Steeple Square to witness the awards in the annual NAACP Tribute Contest. And whereas on Monday, January 15th, at the annual Martin Luther King Jr. birthday breakfast will be held at the Grand River Center at 7:30 a.m. when keynote speaker Faris Muhammad, PhD, will present The Dream of Racial Resilience and Equity. And whereas, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the King Center is urging people to reject all forms of hatred, bigotry, prejudice, while pledging to do everything in their capacity to make America and the world a place where equality and justice, freedom and peace will grow and flourish. And whereas, we invite all citizens to join in keeping his dream alive by joining in the celebrations dedicating their lives to creating the community of Dr. King's dream and pledging a nonviolent way of life in their dealings with all people. Therefore, I, Tammy Ryan, on behalf of the Dubuque Community School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim January 14 and 15, 2018 as days of great celebration in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Signed on this 8th day of January 2018.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Twice, aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And I will sign that.
And I move the Board of Education approve the National School Counseling Week proclamation and authorize the President and Secretary to sign on behalf of the Board.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the National School Counseling Week proclamation and authorize the President and Secretary to sign on behalf of the Board. I shall read the...
Before we read it, I think there's some counselors here. We have those counselors come forward. That would be great.
Sure, I do. I think we've got Natalie Nemmers.
Oh, you do, sorry.
I do, yeah. And Steph Weber, right? Yes. I will read the proclamation and then I shall hand it to you once we approve it. How about that? Whereas school counselors are employed in the Dubuque Community School District to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves, and whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Now therefore, I, Tammy Ryan, on behalf of the Dubuque Community School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim February 5 through 9, 2018 as National School Counseling Week. Signed this day, the 8th day of January, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
They don't get the week off for that, counselors, do they?
Did you hear what I read? They got too much work to do.
They do get a 3-day weekend this week.
There you go. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students 811727 and 816920 at this time.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students 811727 and 816920 at this time. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. Any board member or administrative issues? I'll just say that I want to thank the superintendent on the process of going through this Prescott charter. Like he pointed out a couple weeks ago at our last meeting, it was brought up, voted on, all within the same, the material was presented all within the same meeting. This really has given the board an opportunity to really think, and I honestly did not know how this was going to go today. I did not know what people were thinking, because I know everybody came with different ideas and different thoughts, and I really appreciate the process and the time that each and every board member took into it, as well as the community out there and the input that they gave us. We listened, we heard what they said, and we weighed everything very, very true to our hearts to be able to see what was best as our role. So I want to thank all of my colleagues in the time that they put forward with this, and thank you for the process that you allowed for us to do that.
Absolutely. I do have one administrative issue. It's just kind of a follow-up since there are a number of parents here. I think it was mentioned by a couple of board members. I just wanted to say that a little bit more specifically, that it is always our goal to continue continuity of attendance. And so with this change at the end of this year, beginning next year, we will still have the open enrollment process, and we will find a way to keep your sons and daughters at Prescott, as we would in any building, because we do want to create that continuity of education for your kids. So I don't know if that came out, I know it was mentioned here or there, but I just thought, well, I have one last shot on the agenda to say something, so I would just throw that out there.
And then Stan, equally important, you talked a little bit about if a child is in the Prescott district and is not going to Prescott right now.
We'll do everything same in reverse. I mean, we value relationships between students, parents, and staff, teachers, paras, secretaries, administrators, everybody. And so to keep consistency there has always been a priority, and we will use that same philosophy at this point now to make sure that students who choose to stay at Prescott or stay at Lincoln or stay at Audubon or stay you know, whether they've already landed, we'll do that. I just put out there for clarification.
Great, thank you. Any other items? All right, we are adjourned.